Welcome to Talking with Tatum. We're having another one of our series and speaking with one of our county commissioners, and today we have Mr. Dan Walker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Well, it's a little cold. You can't tell it though here with all these lights and in this nice studio that we have, but I really appreciate you taking time to come in and join us and telling us a little bit about your story on our show.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to come in here and see everything that people are doing here at the PEG channel in the studio. They're doing a lot for us, and we're thankful for all they do. So.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and it's, every meeting that the county commission has, city council meetings, they're open to the public. But a lot of people don't realize this, and hopefully it's a way to kind of share the message about the good work that is being done at the county government level and the local municipal governments level. And you're a big part of that.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, I've been on the commission for a few years, and Bobby Franklin put forward a motion to try and get something done, and then Jeff Joins jumped in, and we kind of all three put our heads together and said, this might be a good thing for Wilson County. And there's some folks that said, well, we tried this before. We said, well, let's give it another shot. Teresa Bush approached us and had some great ideas. We all got together and got enough votes to put some money forward, and we got a real good thing here. It's good to be transparent in government, especially at the local level. It all starts at the local level, and the more that we can share with our constituents, I think the better off we are.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and thank you for your support for the PEG channel that we have here locally. You represent District 10.
Yes, sir.
And one thing I try to do with every person we talk with is for viewers to give us an idea geographically where District 10 sits in Wilson County.
All right. Geographically, District 10, it's on the north side of Mount Jewett. It's on North Mount Juliet Road, and my district kind of straddles North Mount Juliet Road, north of Division Street and just south of Lebanon Road, in the old heart of old Mount Juliet, where the City Hall and all through there, and Tate Lane, just beautiful. Tate Lane, just absolutely a beautiful part of Wilson County. So that's pretty much it there.
That's kind of you mentioned Tate Lane. That's kind of a hidden gem of Wilson County that you drive through Mount Juliet and all you see, it seems like, are subdivisions and retail stores. But you just take a quick little detour off of Lebanon Road and cut over to West Division Street, and you're back in time. Beautiful country back in there.
Gorgeous. I remember several years ago, I was going to get on an airplane and go visit my mother in Florida, and we just had a fresh snow, maybe 2 or 3 inches of fresh snow. My daughter was in high school, and she's big in photography. I said, let's go get some pictures of the fresh snow out there at Tate Lane. And we walked up, we got up in there, and there's a couple we hadn't seen in 4 or 5 years, good friends. They're walking up, and it was just beautiful. The air was clean, and it was just, got some wonderful pictures. But then we went to leave, and I'll be darned if we didn't get stuck in the snow on Tate Lane. So we flagged this couple down that was walking, and between the 5 of us, put my daughter behind the driver's seat. We got that car out of the snow, and I made it on time to get on my plane to go to Florida and warm up a little bit. So.
Well, you mentioned something about going to see your mom in Florida, and we were talking before we went on the air. Tell us a little bit, if you will, about where you grew up, what you've lived, different places you lived, and what you do for a living.
Sure. Well, I grew up in South Florida, a little small town. It's called Clewiston, Florida, and Clewiston, Florida, if you drive in town, there's a big sign outside of town that says America's Sweetest Town. And the reason that's there is because we're smack right in the middle of sugarcane country in Clewiston, Florida, on the southern tip of Lake Okeechobee.
Which is a big agricultural area.
Absolutely. There's more agriculture in Henry County in South Florida there. The biggest product by far is sugarcane, but there's an awful lot of cattle ranching going on, a lot of citrus groves going in there. There's a lot of, I can tell you, a lot of tomato plants. I met a gentleman one time I was down there. He's one of the largest corn producers in the country. He's got the contract for corn with Publix,
really?
Grocery stores. And on the east side of the lake in Palm Beach County, he owns 6 miles lakefront out towards Palm Beach of farmland. He is a very large farmer.
6 miles of lake frontage.
It's all farm country, all the way going towards the coast out there.
Wow.
So he farms there. He farms in South Georgia and upstate New York. Very large farmer, great guy, give you the shirt off his back. And he's in partners with another fella that married a good friend of mine, lived down the street, so they're married, so they're in business together, very large agricultural farmers.
Now, were y'all involved in agricultural growing up down there in Clewiston?
No, we moved to Clewiston from the Midwest. My father and aunt and uncle purchased a business together down there. We were in the wholesale distribution business, and we wholesale tobacco, cigarettes, and candy products all throughout Southwest Florida. So we collected a lot of taxes for the state. All those taxes on those cigarettes, we kind of collected it, kind of like the alcohol people do, and we turn it right over to the state. And but we did that for several years and very successful. And my parents sold out right before the big lawsuit went out with the tobacco company. So
Right.
they sold out while it was good, got out on the high end, and so they made an awful lot of money. Tobacco, candy, paper products, grocery products in South Florida.
Well, growing up in South Florida and being in that business, where did you go to school? What did you decide to do for a living?
Well, I grew up down there. We had a little small high school, real small, and got out of high school. And my brother had gone in the Navy a year ahead of me, and I worked for a good farmer friend of ours. His house got burnt down by lightning, so we built his house back. As soon as we finished rebuilding his house from that lightning strike, I went off in the Navy like my brother did, and went off and saw the world. And I can tell you, growing up in a small farm town, I landed on a big aircraft carrier. That aircraft carrier was bigger than the town I grew up in.
Really?
It was huge.
What carrier were you on?
I was on USS Constellation CV-64, and we're the first carrier that was outfitted with the FAA Hornet strike
Really?
fighter jet. Very
Really?
first. We came out of the shipyards, and Ronald Reagan came and flagged us, the America's flagship. So we're the flagship. We represented the entire Navy fleet.
And let's see, the Hornet came out about early 80s, maybe 81,
Yeah, right around
82?
81, 82, right in
Okay.
there, sure did.
All right. And once you got out of the Navy, where did you go?
Well, I wound up in South Carolina, Charleston, beautiful city, just loved it. Great Navy town, but wound up at a minesweeping detachment, and that was back in the days when the Cold War was over. Bill Clinton was president, and we were able to save a few dollars by closing a few military bases. And we closed the Charleston Naval Shipyard. And the little minesweeping detachment that I was at was the only place that stayed there out of the whole shoot match. But it's time for me to get out of the Navy, so I got out of the Navy and got married while I was there, met my wife, and my daughter was born there, and went to school at the Citadel and got a business degree at the Citadel while I was in Charleston.
Okay.
Sure did.
And when did you move to Wilson County? How long have you been a resident here?
Been here since June of 1997.
Okay.
Going on to be 23 years this summer.
And how did y'all settle on Wilson County? A fellow in the Navy has seen a lot of the country, and families had roots in the Midwest, and a fellow from South Florida. How did y'all wind up pick Wilson County?
Well, that was a decision, really deciding factor on my wife's side of the fence. She grew up in Chattanooga, and she had a sister that lived here in Hermitage, and the year before we moved up here, she had passed away with breast cancer and left two small children. So we kind of moved up here to kind of see what we could do to help out a little bit. And I got a job right out of the Citadel with a large wholesale distributor. And so they put me to work, gave me a job here. I said, I'll come to work for you if you give me a job in Nashville. And the rest is history.
Okay. And you mentioned you have a daughter.
Yes, sir.
Born in South Carolina. One child?
Yes, one child. Kelly.
And any grandchildren yet?
No grandchildren yet. Got a couple grandcats, but no grandchildren. So,
Well, when they come along at someday, you're really going to be tickled, because I've got three, and they're the light of my life. They're really special. Living here 23 years, and a lot of times people growing up have an interest in politics. Maybe they see themselves running for an office when they're older. Some people, it never crosses their mind. And what prompted you to throw your hat in the ring for a county commission seat?
well, there's a couple different sides to that story. When I was in sixth grade, we're living outside of Chicago in northern Illinois, and just so happened there was a political town hall meeting with the governor, and our sixth grade civics class was going to go visit, and so just so happened the governor and I had the same name.
Really?
So I raised my hand and got to go up and sit with the governor and talk back and forth, got pictures, and so I thought that was really a pretty cool thing as a sixth grader and getting to go up there. And then fast forward, moved to Nashville, and my mother-in-law's been deeply involved in politics for about 30 years, involved in a lot of state and federal races and very active And so we kind of watched that from afar. She's down in Chattanooga, and so we kind of got involved at the local level, doing some campaign work and not door to door with different people, and just a lot of excitement. We live in a free country, and that's what America's all about, is freedom. And nothing better than being involved. A lot of people sit on the sidelines and complain or moan and groan, but if you want to make a difference in life, you just got to get in there, roll up your sleeves, and be a part of the action. So.
Yes, sir. A lot of times, and I've heard this said about not just politics, but about anything. Most anybody can see a problem and say, well, that's a problem. Somebody ought to do something about it. But it really takes a special person to get in there and figure out, well, maybe we can do things a little bit better. And was there any one issue that prompted you to run for local government?
Well, I guess, you look back a little bit. We're here when Mount Juliet was just a little crossroads. There wasn't much of anything there. My wife was a school teacher, and she wound up teaching at Mount Juliet Elementary for Steve Brown. Real good, great principal, great faculty, but the building was so dilapidated and totally just unfit for students to be taught there. So several of us parents got together, and we became community activists, and we organized and got together, and we just did like you said. We weren't going to make a problem. We wanted to find a solution. The solution was, let's build a new school.
Right.
And we did that. We worked together. We worked with the county commissioners, the school boards, and we had a new school built. My wife moved from the old school to the new Mount Juliet. And that's what it's all about, coming together as a community, working together. There are things that the county and the local governments do that private citizens don't do.
Right.
And I can say, from that point going forward, I can say that Mount Juliet, Lebanon, Watertown, Wilson County as a whole has made great strides in their infrastructure and schools, and that is the number one thing that we do at Wilson County, is we educate. That's the number one part of our budget, and I can say right now that we have built a lot of new school facilities. There are no portable classrooms in Wilson County whatsoever. So I want to say that has been very, very good for Wilson County, and that's why, one of the reasons why so many people come to this county. We've got great education.
Well, in the dollars that are spent per student are really actually pretty good compared with other school systems across the state. But our test scores, also the standardized test scores, if you compare Wilson County against most any other county in the state, we score well above most of them and are certainly in the top 10%, maybe even in the top 5%.
Absolutely.
So it shows an investment, shows an effort that's been made. A lot of growth going on right now. That's the big word that anybody in local government talks about, either at the county level or the city level. What do you see as being some other challenges, or maybe some things that we need to look towards, whether it's roads? Certainly schools falls into that category, things that you have your eye on for the next 5 or 10 years.
Well, roads is definitely a big thing. We got a good road commission here, but roads is really, it's federal, it's state, and it's local dollars. And a lot of that big money comes from the state and federal government. So I know our Mayor, Randall Hutto, chairs the MPO, and that's all about, prioritizing projects, because look at Middle Tennessee. There's so much growth. It's not just Wilson County, it's all of Middle Tennessee. And there are only so many dollars to go around. So the more people we can get from the county of Wilson County to get involved with those different organizations to lobby for us on our behalf, it's only going to help us.
Yes, sir. As far as any surprises that you've had being in local government, a lot of people get into it and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a county commissioner." They meet one Monday night a month. There's a lot more to it. A lot of work done at the committee level. What's been a big surprise for you getting involved?
Well, I guess the biggest surprise to me is how much government there is. We have, I think, 17 different department heads, and even more so than that, there's so many different people that do so many different things at the city and the local government, and a lot of really good people that are out there serving day in and day out. We've got a great sheriff's department. I can tell you the police forces, the school teachers. We've got some great individuals out there doing a lot of hard work for us. And a lot of them get underappreciated and don't get the respect they need all the time. So.
Okay. I'm glad to hear you say that, because one of, I think, the hardest jobs is a teacher in this day and age, because they're asked to do so much more than just what it was when you and I were in school. One thing I like to ask people in your position is any words of advice or maybe a philosophy of life or lessons that you've learned from your career, growing up in a small town, being in the military service there, private business sector, and now government, that you would like to add is this is a mantra somebody can live by, or this is something you might want to consider as a way to look at things?
Well, I guess one thing that I've shared with people, and I guess I picked this up as a young adult out in the Navy, and you get thrown out there and meet people from all walks of life, and we get together. It's all about teamwork. You'll run up against situations in life where you may not think that life's fair all the time, or maybe this isn't but what I always say to people is where you are is the place to be. We don't always choose our path. We're put in situations to make the most of it. That's what I always say. It doesn't matter what life throws at you, make the most of it. And when you walk away from a situation, try and make it a little bit better each time.
Try to leave it in a better situation than you found it.
That's right. Kind of like if you go on camping, you always say, leave your campsite better than when you showed up. Don't leave a lot of trash, but maybe pick up and make it a little bit nicer than when you walked in there. So
that's a great word to live by, a great way to live your life. Commissioner Walker, I want to thank you for sharing your time here with us. And I always like to give our guests Talking with Tatum coffee cup. No tax dollars spent on that.
Well, I appreciate that.
You don't have to put coffee in it, but if you fill it all the way up, it'll get cold, but you can use it for soup as well.
Boy, I tell you what, that is a nice gift. I appreciate that. And I want to say thank you for all that you do. I know you've got a very difficult job, and it's very tough, and I want to thank you for all you do for us each day.
Well, that's awfully kind of you, but just like you said, it's a team effort. I've got a lot of good people that I work with, and they make me look good. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Absolutely.
And then we'll just sit here and look at each other and talk like that. All right. And she'll wrap it up. That's a great interview.